in Hanover. Then we have courses, seminare on historians or philosophers of world history, from Leopold von Ranke or Jakob Burckhardt to Immanuel Wallerstein or André Gunder Frank. For instance, I did a very interesting and very fruitful seminar in Hanover on Reorient with very interesting students and interesting discussions. Then we have seminars or courses on comparative concepts like peasants, forced labor, mass killings. Comparison, for instance, in this case of Soviet Union and National Socialist murders, absolutism or internal peripheries, which is a concept which I think useful. And then we have seminars on courses on central concepts of global history as transition from traditional to rational society, the European world system, modernity, capitalism, modes of production, cultures in world history. Third, we have courses on methods. Courses on comparisons being the starting point, especially for early history, and more on interactive history, reading sources in interactive history, mostly for modern history. You can even do this on the Second World War. For instance, I did a course on the destruction and resistance of Jewish settlements in the Second World War. The point is that for doing such courses, you have to learn 3 or 4 languages. Now, in the case I just report on, you have to learn German, Yiddish, Polish, Russian, and of course English anyway. Or if you take the case of Rhodos or Saloniki, then of course you would have to learn Spanish, but the old Spanish, which the Jewish communities of these settlements talk Ladino. Of course, then we did courses on such events of history which easily may be shown as being of global importance. Now, one point being, for instance, the Achsenzeit, as Karl Jaspers called this a long time ago, the time when world religions, to a large degree, were founded. Another, of course, trade and commerce of the Eurasian continent, and especially on the Silk Road. Or another, of course, mainstream thinking and special development, so the whole question of romanticism and mainstream thinking, which is a general global question of interest. One thing I would like to point out, even in this very small time, we have to keep on language courses. Now, German, as you note by reading the table of this Congress, no longer is a world language, but anyway, you have to learn at least 2 or 3 foreign languages. And I do not think that anyone can do global history without learning 2 or 3 foreign languages. I talked about some just at the moment. Maybe the most successful, which we did in Hanover and in Vienna, are colloquia, especially for postgraduate students. In Hanover, we do this since 1975. We have called this colloquium Center and Periphery, and at a later stage, the colloquium developed more to a discussion forum for development studies. But the fundamental idea remained that in such colloquia, interesting concepts, for instance, the world system, or world systems in the plural, or the question of the end of the modern state, as a more modern question, are discussed and presented. How to develop from these cooperative lectures and courses to a university curriculum? This is a difficult problem. It started right now in Vienna, where they start a master's, and in Leipzig, where they start a master's for global history. It is simply necessary for such plans to invite colleagues from other disciplines, geography, sociology, politics, and religion, and of course from the area studies, and as possible, plan a curriculum together. Again, in different universities, this will be and is organized in different ways according to circumstances. In Vienna, for instance, there are many institutes for area studies, so it was a job to bring them together and cooperate on a common plan how to really offer the topic. Cooperation is necessary also with other universities for area studies, which cannot be offered in the university concerned. On level A, that does mean that there must be sufficient funding to invite specialists for other area studies. On level B, it does mean exchange of teachers and students, which already to some degree is organized within the European context. You will have that here also via Brussels in Santiago, but to have it organized on a broader scale, and second, to extend it over the borders which are paid for by Brussels at the moment. There are also some attempts for that in Erasmus Mundus, but this has to be extended. Thirdly, I think that American colleges quite often, or know that American colleges quite often have more world history than at least German universities have. So the cooperation with American colleges and universities should be instituted. And then, of course, in the end, and this really is a problem, and I do not know how to solve it at the moment because I do not know where to get the money from. Of course, actually, you would have to plan cooperation with Chinese universities, for instance, or Calcutta, for instance. And sometimes I had a letter from Calcutta, wouldn't you like to cooperate? And I said, yeah, that would be extremely interesting, but who pay for it? So this simply is the next problem then. There are already some interesting attempts to work online, which is also possible and maybe will solve the question of costs. To make common courses. For instance, I was a member of such a common course between American university and a German university, which just went online. So we could ask one another without being there, which is very helpful. So my point is teaching world history in German schools. 2 minutes, oh, that's good. I can almost talk on something else. No, my point, teaching world history in German schools and universities is just starting. But I hope to show by this overview that we really do make some, if little, headway. And I think that the structure of this enterprise has very much in common with Historia a Debate. It's organized to a large degree privately and by private enterprise. Muchas gracias por su atención.